Nimrod Palmach, CEO of Israelis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Israelis sends immense numbers of delegations abroad. Tell us a little bit about what you see. What are the biggest struggles that Jewish communities abroad face?
So now more than ever, we see the Jewish community in desperate need for guidance and help with what happens with kids on universities and campuses. What's happening is parents sending their kids for the first time outside of their house, and these kids are not safe anymore. We saw throughout the last year what's happening around America in different campuses, for example, Columbia, and try to imagine a young 18-year-old student for the first time outside of his house without any support, without any parent nearby, and now needs to defend himself, but not just himself as a persona, but he became as an ambassador of Israel without even asking for it. So what we see is parents that are frightened, have no tools of how to better educate or equip their kids, and we see the kids that are totally confused about how to defend themselves, how to defend Israel, should they be the representatives of Israel. Mm-hmm. And this whole vacuum, someone needs to go in, and we try to be in this gap.
So what does that actually look like in actuality? How is filling the gap in actuality?
So meaning you have students that have no idea, I mean in a more deep knowledge of idea of what's happening now in Israel, why Israel is in Gaza for so long. What is Israel doing in Lebanon? What does it mean to be in 7 fronts? These students have no really idea in terms of knowledge of what's happening now in Israel. The second thing is Israel objective regarding the hostages, regarding our own safety, our rights to defend ourselves. Even more than that, our right to exist. So we give these students both the understanding, the knowledge, and the tools of how to better defend themselves on social media. Not only that, a lot of these students had traveled to Israel, either throughout the last year, back a year ago, 2 years, and we want these students to be able to share their stories about Israel, because we believe in person, in people-to-people connection. When you will tell your actual experience in Israel, it's just narrowing the gap, no matter who is against you or who stands in front of you.
Yeah, the second it's a personal story, it's something that you can connect to as a human. So are there any personal stories that really stood out to you that Israelis has encountered abroad?
So mostly we brought in both the Nova Festival survivor stories into the campuses, and the impact is enormous because any student in America visualize himself at this moment when he's at home, right before he leaves for the party, you stand in front of the mirror and you look at your clothes and you look at yourself and you try to imagine what's the party it's going to look like. Every student in America can relate. So we realized that the Nova Festival stories of survivors really left a huge impact on these students. And what we faced there, what we encountered is many, many stories of young kids that again felt that they were left alone out there in the campus, needed to defend themselves and to defend Israel. And it's even a war of numbers. There is only few of us there and many, many of them. Mm. And now you need to be smarter. You need to be more authentic to our perspective. And we need to gather around together. So that's what we try to do. We try to create a coalition of people in universities to better advocate for Israel.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you said that they really connected with the Nova survivors, because it makes sense, right? It's the same age groups. It's the same mutual interests, right? I can imagine that a bunch of these college kids, dream of going to Tomorrowland and go to EDM parties in the city. And so they can imagine themselves at a rave. And so imagining yourself in that situation connects you to these actual stories and brings it home, so to speak. So did those you've spoken with express a desire to go beyond, let's say, to make Aliyah?
I even take it a bit further. Not only they connected to the Nova Festival, it draws empathy because it's so close to their world. And empathy, not like caring or listen, I'm with you. Empathy, in my point of view, gets you to do an action.
Yeah.
It's such a strong emotion. It's such a strong energy inside of you that it makes you want to do something about it. So yes, we met few, and not a few, maybe even more students that actually started to talk about making Aliyah, take part in the IDF. I met at least one student that came to my house after a few connections, I invited him for dinner. And he was thinking about joining the IDF, but maybe in a year from now. And after one weekend with me, with other people in my ecosystem, he decided that's it. This is a one-life opportunity to take part in the IDF at this specific crucial moments. 20 years from now, what will I tell to my kids? Where was I back in 2024?
Did I speak? Did I act? Or did I do none of the above or all of the above?
Exactly. Did I do? Did I be a doer? And by the way, joining the IDF, this is the big thing now for youth in America.
Yeah. There's huge motivation to make Aliyah specifically to be lone soldiers.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you navigate communicating Israel's complex narrative to international audiences, right? Because on one hand, there's the empathy side, but on the other hand, they have empathy for Israel's opponents as well because of what they're seeing, what they're exposed to.
This is a very tough battle, what's happening now in the advocacy world. But number one, we have to do something. So in my belief, there is many organizations that try to do different tactics. What we do in Israel is we try to appeal to, again, people's hearts and minds via storytelling and people-to-people connection. What I try to do when I met many audiences around the world, Australia, Mexico, Canada, America, the UK, Germany, wherever I went throughout the last year, I try to bring the equation for people. Let's try to think about Iran. I think deeply that the Iranian people connect with Israel on the same level. We both cherish freedom and love and democracy. Unfortunately, the Iranian people have the worst leadership they can ever imagine. They have a leadership that cherished death and destruction. And let's say what happened now with this young woman that was arrested 2 days ago, just by wanting to express her freedom, just to wear whatever she wants to wear. And by the way, the same case happened 2 years ago. I tried to ask these people, who do you want as your neighbor? What kind of values? What kind of society? What I saw on October 7 is a society, myself, my friends, we were willing to risk our life on that day to save people we don't know.
Right, you were on the front lines, right?
In the name, exactly, in the name, again, of human rights, of democracy, of love, of empathy. But on the other side, we saw a society that cherished death and destruction. And we need to choose. This is time for humankind to choose what kind of values you want to cherish. And this kind of understanding we try to approach, we try to bring to people by connecting to stories like this young woman now in Iran, that, by the way, I think she's the most bravest woman alive to be able to do something like that. Yeah. And in a few years from now, this is what will happen in Iran. People will dress the way they want to because, again, freedom will overcome anything.
So when it comes to October 7th and the resulting war, there's a lot of denial abroad and flat out fake news about Israel. What are some projects or methods you can mention that Israelis employs to garner support for Israel despite all of this?
So from the day that Israelis was established, out of a need, we realized that many people go abroad, they travel the world, and they face anti-Semitism. Few of the founders of Israelis, that's what they faced on their story. And we decided in Israelis to equip these young soldiers with the right tools of how to navigate in these kinds of dialogues when you sit in a nice, hotel or guest house in India or in South America. What to do, what to say, what is the right moment.
I love that you're describing the stereotypical post-army vacation that Israelis typically take.
Exactly, but it exists. It's like an algorithm. They buy their own tickets. They go everywhere in the world. All we need is to, in very, very cost-effective ways, to have them becoming ambassadors of Israel. And that's what we try to do. And mostly is the understanding that you can share your own personal stories and it will overcome everything. So we took the power of storytelling with technology. We chose the VR technology, which is phenomenal these days. And we created the Survive to Tell program, where essentially allows students in America for a few minutes to be present at the Nova Festival site or in Kibbutz Be'eri in Kfar Aza with actual survivors that were there in the same day, and not just listen to the story, but listen to their story at the site. This is the exact bush where I hid, and two of my best friends were executed, and I sat there. Eventually the terrorist found me. He struck me in the head, and then he started to tie my legs and drag me. This is one of our survivors' story. When you listen to Mazal Tazazo's story at the site on VR, this is unbelievable. And we talked about empathy. this is exactly what it does. It allows people to be present on October 7 with the survivors. And we also captured very, very rare footage on 3D from that day, and we combined it in the film. The result is unbelievable. We traveled all over the world with this. And for 2025, we have ambitions to go to 500 US campuses to try to combat the rising anti-Semitism in the campuses, where eventually we want to bring people to defend themselves, and the ones that says that that's it, it's too much, we can give them another door, another bridge to Israel to make Aliyah and to join us. This is what I try to do.
Beautiful. Nimrod Palmach, thank you so much for telling us about Israelis.
תודה רבה, thank you.